Welcome back. Feels like I never left you. We have May 14th, episode 134 of Three Things with Ian. On today's episode, we're talking Uber, Mount Everest, and the mockery of the Pete Rose debacle. Let's dive in. So, here's me. I'm getting on my soapbox here. Yesterday, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, he basically reinstated Pete Rose as being eligible for the Hall of Fame. But what he really did, guys, was he made a really weird decision. He announced that he had ruled that a person's time on the permanently ineligible list ends at his or her death. So that's the top line directive. And what that meant, the trickle-down effect, was that not only was Pete Rose, he died back in September at age 83, he is now eligible for the Hall of Fame, as well as the 16 other people, right, who also were at the heart of the biggest cheating scandal, the 1919 Chicago White Sox, who threw the World Series for money. So, why am I upset about this? Rob Manfred has one job. One job. Nothing else matters if fans don't believe what they're seeing on the field is real. Let me say that again. Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner, has one job. The product on the field has to be an authentic competition in which both teams and all the players are trying their best to win. That is it. Okay? Manfred has done a decent job on several other fronts. Baseball is faster. It was way too slow. There are less television blackouts. I guess that's important. I don't really care about that. But my biggest problem is with this edict, he has ensured that his legacy as commissioner will be one of failure. And let me tell you why. He has spent he's a baseball guy. He spent his life advocating for baseball and being a baseball high-level executive. He's talked about the integrity of the game. But he has failed on multiple fronts to ensure that the integrity of the game is paramount. He failed to root out the pervasive use of technology to steal signs illegally in the mid-2010s. And in 2019, the Houston Astros were banging on freaking trash cans in the outfield, stealing signs to alert pitchers, to alert hitters which pitches were going to be thrown during their championship season. Right? He literally let a team bang on trash cans. Players came forward from multiple teams, including the Astros themselves. Turned themselves in, got a slap on the wrist. So much of the discourse around baseball under Manfred's tenure has been about whether the sport's been rigged. And what does he do? What does he do? He allows somebody who, Pete Rose, in his own 2004 memoir, admitted to having bet on baseball, has always said that he only bet on the Reds to win. That could be true. But what about the other games in which he did not bet on the Reds at all? Are we sure he gave his best performance? I don't know. Rule 21, don't bet on baseball, is the holiest of baseball edicts. If fans can't be sure, everyone involved is trying to win, the whole enterprise falls apart. The commissioner's job is to ensure that it doesn't fall apart. It's impossible to take Rule 21 too seriously. And it also does not help that Pete Rose is a loathsome, abhorrent individual who not only admitted to betting on baseball, but was actively had a relationship with a 16-year-old girl that I'm not even going to discuss right now. Look up Pete Rose. He's not a good guy. I'm sorry. Come at me, Pete Rose fan members. I don't care. So now the Hall of Fame question for Mr. Pete Rose will fall to the quote-unquote Historical Overview Committee, which is another quote, a small group that meets next to consider players who made their greatest impact on the game before 1980. There's a good chance Pete Rose gets in the Hall of Fame. There's a good chance Manfred will also join him someday. But after today, neither one will deserve it. No. Just no. Uber invents the bus. Again? Every few years, a tech company, quote unquote, invents the bus. Right? A better mousetrap. Today, Uber announced Route Share, a feature that, quote, offers pickups every 20 minutes along busy corridors during weekday commute hours. So it's a bus. Now, it costs 50% less than UberX and includes up to 2 co-riders, but it's still not as cheap as a bus. I'm not clear why this exists. I don't see a path towards success. There are people in this world who will Uber gladly. They will pay generally whatever price, maybe save some incredibly inappropriate surge pricing issues, but generally they will pay what the app says for their 5-block commute, their 6-7 miles from the suburbs. That's fine. Uber exists. I'm happy with Uber. There are people that will never Uber because they don't understand it, they don't like it, they prefer taxis or just public transportation. But I don't think there's much in the Venn diagram for overlap here, where there are people that would the people that would want a bus, but for some reason are going to want to do the Uber version of a bus. I don't know if that exists. UberX Share, which launched in 2022, tried to save riders a mere 20% for sharing their Uber ride with a co-rider traveling in a similar route. That did not work very well. I am okay with companies trying new things. I just don't particularly see the viability for this particular program. So Uber reinvented the bus again today. Time will tell. Maybe I'll talk about it in a couple months. Will this be a success? I just don't particularly see. There are people that take the bus or the subway. There are people that walk or bike, and there are people that Uber. And everyone kind of stays in their own lane, right? People that Uber all the time are pretty much price agnostic. They're aware of the price, but it's acceptable within a wide margin, and they like the convenience and comfortability. There are people that want a cheaper version. They do the bus. Takes longer, it's stinky, it's crowded, but hey, they like it. To each their own. So we shall see. All right, my last story, which I hope I don't rush through because it's a doozy. Can Mount Everest really be climbed in a week? So there's a commercial expedition planning to take clients up the tallest mountain in the world in record time with the help of xenon. Xenon, xenon gas. But some are a little bit leery. So let's back up. Tenzing Norgay, Edmund Hillary, 2 phenomenal explorers. They made their first successful ascent of Mount Everest in 1953. Took them more than 2 months. That's not bad. Because you have to adjust to thin air at a high altitude, right? You're spending weeks at different base camps, acclimatizing, right? Slowly going upwards, right? After reaching base camp, they spent 7 weeks making brief forays up and down a little bit to set ropes, lay ladders, and establish even higher camps before their assault on the summit. Today, the miles of fixed ropes put along the route by Sherpas and the logistics perfected by commercial guiding companies have narrowed that down slightly, but it still takes a long time to go up Everest. They actually don't go much faster than our boys Norgay and Hillary did, right? Most expeditions give you about 2 months to reach the top of Everest. Because essentially, I mean, I don't know how much you go to Everest. I'm a big Everest guy. I'm obsessed with Everest. Your body does not like what Everest gives it. You start to die, the death zone. So you need to be very careful to get your body to a place where you can go to the summit. It takes time. It is very hard to climb Mount Everest. Okay? It takes, on average, about 40 days to this day, 2025, to reach the summit. This company, though, is trying to do a shortcut. Instead of breathing bottled oxygen, they plan on breathing bottled xenon gas. They will try to do the following. Fly to Kathmandu in Nepal. Take a helicopter to Everest Base Camp and climb the mountain in only a few days. They want to skip the usual painstaking 3 weeks that we have been doing for 70 years, and they're paying $170,000 per person for the chance. So why is simple. We know that xenon gas increases production of a protein called erythropoietin. I'm probably saying that wrong. Known for short as EPO, thank goodness. EPO is a glycoprotein that our kidneys produce as a reaction to insufficient oxygen levels. So, high EPO levels, you can have more oxygen in your blood. right? It increases the number of red blood cells and the crucial protein they carry, hemoglobin, which transports oxygen around the body. At high altitudes, what happens? At high altitudes, if you go up and down repeatedly, you naturally acclimatize. Multiple rounds increase the oxygen levels that you can have in your blood. And your body will also adapt, it'll adapt to having lower oxygen levels, right? Xenon could potentially offer a shortcut. By inhaling carefully controlled doses of the gas before the expedition, it may be possible to accelerate the effects of that acclimatization. So this guy, Furtenbach is his last name. He says he's tested xenon himself on previous expeditions. We're not really sure, though. We're not really sure. Because the question in this case is, does it really stimulate production of red blood cells in such a short period of time? The science would say no. This guy would say otherwise, right? He is proposing this under the auspices of it being safer. The main goal of this tactic, he says, is to allow climbers to summit faster and so reduce the risk of being caught in bad weather, avalanches, and so on, so on, so on, so. The less time you spend on the mountain, the safer it becomes. That is a true statement, but you're also inhaling a weird, noble gas that's been understudied into your lungs, right? That will go into your brain, right? Oxygen fluctuates throughout the entire human system, right? Also, it's kind of like doping. Substances that artificially increase the amount of EPO in the blood, including xenon, they're banned by the World Anti-Doping WADA. So I'm not saying that that's the reason why we shouldn't do it, but it's really weird. It's really weird. So let me skip a little bit ahead here. So basically, is this possible? Is it safe? Is it worth doing? I don't have any answers to that question. But I will say that essentially the number of air molecules in the atmosphere falls the higher you get. 18,000 feet, slightly above the Everest base camp, there is roughly only half as much oxygen available for us to breathe. On the summit, it drops to 1/3, right? So if exposed to these conditions without bottled oxygen or xenon, people don't do well. They just don't. Their brain function becomes impaired. They can't make decision-making properties. Their problem-solving goes away, right? Only way to combat this is to get your body prepared to be in an environment with 1/3 less oxygen. Right? Hypoxia. That's your enemy. If it becomes too severe, acute mountain sickness happens, and you must go down, desummit, or you will die. People die all the time on Everest, right? So some more stats before I wrap this up. Both Hillary and Norgay, back in the day, 53, they used oxygen. Of the over 7,000 people known to have reached the summit of Mount Everest, only 230 had done it without the aid of supplemental oxygen. That's crazy. I want to give you this crazy thing, though, before I wrap this up. In 53, so just around the same year as these two guys reached the summit of Everest, Austrian alpinist Hermann Buhl achieved one of the greatest feats in the history of mountaineering, summiting alone on the 26,000, so high, Himalayan peak Nanga Parbat. It remains the only time anyone has managed a solo first ascent of the mountain. He did it without oxygen, without bringing his own oxygen. Interestingly enough, though, what he had in his back pocket was Pervitin, otherwise known as methamphetamine. So yeah, he was high on meth during his ascent. He also famously, during the gruesome descent, he famously spent a night wedged against the rocks at 26,000 feet, standing on a narrow ledge. So he's a hardcore guy. The meth the meth was important. Methamphetamine will make you do weird things. So anyway, I don't know about the xenon thing. I just thought it was interesting. Even with this help, though, Everest is a treacherous place. There's no guarantee of survival. Although there's a little research on how long someone can remain at very high altitudes, we do know that even with being acclimated, your body will eventually start to deteriorate. The death zone will win. Everest always wins, right? Anything above 26,000 feet or 8,000 meters is the death zone. It's increasingly dangerous, and your body is essentially your fighting time. Ticking time clock. So I don't know. Xenon, what do you think? People are going to do it. This guy's going to do it. He's going to bring up real human beings who are paying a lot of money. They're going to take Xenon and they're going to try to ascend. They're going to try to get up Everest in 1 week. Time will tell if it's possible. The world will be watching, including myself. Anyway, Pete Rose, my diatribe. Bad idea. Uber, also a bad idea. And Xenon, bad idea. The trifecta of bad ideas. Goodbye.